What's up everybody, it's Iris here and we're back with another video. What is my attachment style? That's a common question that I hear a lot of people asking. I love talking about this topic because I'm always curious about how people's childhood can have such a big impact on the way people relate to each other and form relationships as an adult. Before we get into it, I want to focus on explaining to you guys about 4 different attachment styles today and talk about how to heal from your attachment style in another video. What is attachment? Attachment refers to the particular way you relate to other people. Your style of attachment was formed at the very beginning of your life, during your first 2 years. Once established, it's a style that stays with you and plays out today in how you relate in intimate relationships and in how you parent your children, if you have any. But when you become an adult, it's possible for your attachment style to change. Understanding your attachment style can be super helpful because it offers you insight into how you felt and developed in your childhood. It also highlights ways that you're emotionally limited as an adult and what you need to change to improve your close relationships and your relationship with your own children. There's approximately 50% of the population with secure attachment, 20% with anxious attachment, 25% with avoidant attachment, and 5% with fearful attachment. A lot of people think that you can only have one attachment style, but that's not true for everyone. The truth is, we may have multiple attachment styles. Like for me, I have a secure attachment, but definitely a little bit of anxious attachment as well. And before you conclude there are good and bad attachment styles, good meaning having a secure attachment, and bad meaning having an insecure attachment, I want you to take a moment to look back to your childhood and think about what it was like to have your primary caregiver take care of you and notice what kind of feelings come up for you. Did you get your needs met when you were a baby? Did you feel safe, seen, and soothed? Sensitive mothers are responsive to the child's needs and respond to their moods and feelings correctly. They're also more likely to have securely attached children. In contrast, mothers who are less sensitive towards their child, for example, those who respond to the child's needs incorrectly or who are impatient or ignore their child, are likely to have insecurely attached children. As a child grows, many systems of the brain require stimulation if they are to develop, and they must occur at specific times in order for these systems to function at their best. If this sensitive period is missed, some systems may never be able to reach their full potential. Like if a child is not exposed to language during his early life, he may never be able to speak or understand speech normally. Similarly, when children are not allowed the chance to develop permanent relationships with one of 2 primary caregivers during their first 3 years of life, it has lasting effects on people's ability to relate normally and affectionately to each other. How attachment styles came about was a group of researchers were interested in observing the way babies, usually about 9 to 18 months old, behaved during the strange situation test. Let me explain to you what this test is about. Basically, a mother and her baby enter into a room full of toys for the baby to play with. An experimenter then exchanges a few words with the mom and leaves the baby and the mom alone in the room. The baby would start to explore the room on her own. Then a stranger joins the mother and baby, and the mother is instructed to leave the room. The point of the study is to see how the baby behaves with the stranger after the mother has left the room. Does the baby cry and look for her mother? Or does she keep playing like her mother never left at all? The mother returns to the room shortly after, and then the stranger leaves. The researcher is interested in what the baby would do after their reunion. Will she continue crying, or will she stop sobbing after her mother hugs her tightly and calmly reassures her? This study revealed 3 different attachment styles that children possess: secure, anxious, or avoidant. I'll go into detail about each attachment style later, but I also want to point out the importance of having an attachment figure in the room in this experiment was enough to allow a child to go out into a previously unknown environment and explore with confidence. This presence is known as a secure base. It's the knowledge that you're backed by someone who's supportive and whom you can rely on with 100% certainty and turn to in times of need. A secure base is a prerequisite to a child's ability to explore, develop, and learn. So what does the study tell us? Well, as adults, we don't play with toys anymore, but we do have to go out into the world and deal with novel situations and difficult challenges. If we feel secure like the infant in a strange situation test when her mother's present, the world is at our feet. We can take risks, be creative, and pursue our dreams. And if we lack that sense of security, if we're unsure whether that person closer to us, maybe a romantic partner, truly believes in us and supports us and will be there for us in times of need, we'll find it much harder to maintain focus and engage in life. I'm going to relate the strange situation test and all the attachment styles we're going to learn about. first attachment style I'm going to talk about is secure attachment. In the strange situation test, the secure baby is visibly distressed when the mom leaves the room, as what you would expect. When the mom comes back, he's very happy and excited to see her. Once in the safety of her presence, he's quick to be reassured, calm down, and he can resume playing. Children who have secure attachment feel confident that the attachment figure will be available to meet their needs. This means that the caregiver is sensitive to their signals and responds appropriately to their needs, like getting soothed when upset, getting fed when they need calories, or getting held and rocked consistently. They use the attachment figure as a safe base to explore the environment and seek the attachment figure in times of distress. Babies immediately find nursing, being held, touched, and rocked soothing and pleasurable. If they're parented lovingly and someone consistently comes when they're stressed by hunger or fear, the joy and relief of being fed and soothed becomes associated with human contact. These children's brains develop as these loving caregivers provide the template that they use for human relationships. So in normal childhood, nurturing human interactions become intimately and powerfully connected with pleasure. It's profoundly influenced by whether you experience kind, attuned parenting or whether you receive inconsistent, frequently disrupted, abusive, or neglectful care. Therefore, as an adult, people with a secure attachment feel worthy of respect, have a positive self-image, and have trusting and lasting relationships. They're also comfortable sharing feelings with friends and partners and seek out social support when needed. The second attachment style I'm going to talk about is anxious attachment. Going back to the strange situation test, babies with anxious attachment become easily distressed when the mother leaves the room. However, when the mother returns, the baby reacts ambivalently. She's happy to see her, but angry at the same time. She takes longer to calm down, and even when she does, it's only temporary. A few seconds later, she'll angrily push the mom away, wriggle down, and burst into tears again. Some parents are inconsistently attuned to their children, meaning they're very unpredictable. At times, their responses are appropriate and nurturing, but at other times, they're intrusive and insensitive. So sometimes the baby's needs are met, but then sometimes they're ignored by the caregiver. Children with this kind of parenting are confused and insecure because they don't know what type of treatment to expect. They often feel suspicious and distrustful of their parents, but at the same time, they act clingy and desperate. Because the child fails to develop any feelings of security from the attachment figure, they often grow up to be self-critical and insecure when they become adults. They constantly seek approval and reassurance from others, but doing so never really relieves their self-doubt. When a person with anxious attachment is in a relationship, they worry a lot about being rejected or cheated on, which drives them to act clingy and overly dependent on their partner. I'm sure you might have heard from at least one of your friends telling you about their experience of dating someone who constantly asks for the whereabouts. Yes, this is exactly what someone with anxious attachment looks like. They're concerned about not being good enough for their partner, and they may spend an abnormal amount of time thinking about the relationship. Because of how insecure they are, they may be reluctant to get close to others and struggle with communicating their needs appropriately. I'm going to talk about the third and fourth attachment style next, but before I go into it, both of these attachments fall under the category of avoidant. I want to emphasize that it wasn't until later that the researchers have separated avoidant into two categories. What does someone with an avoidant attachment style look like? Well, let's bring back the strange situation test. When the mom leaves the room, this baby acts as though nothing has happened. Upon her return, she remains unmoved, ignores her mom, and continues to play indifferently. Well, you might be saying, oh, she's not crying, that's a good thing. Actually, that's bad. In fact, inside, the baby's neither calm nor collected. Researchers have found that these babies' heart rates are actually just as elevated as other babies who express immense distress, and their cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, are high. Now I can introduce the third attachment style, which is avoidant-dismissive. These children are likely to have a caregiver who's insensitive and rejecting of their needs. So these are the parents who neglect their children, ignore their children when they're crying, basically not paying any attention to their children's needs. This leads the child to avoid seeking contact with the attachment figure when they're in distress, because they've learned that communication of needs has no influence on their caregiver. The brain needs patterned, repetitive stimuli to develop properly. Spastic, unpredictable relief from fear, loneliness, discomfort, and hunger keeps a baby's stress system on high alert. Receiving no consistent loving response to his fears and needs, the infant never developed a normal association between human contact and relief from stress, which means the only person he can rely on is himself. As an adult, those who've avoided dismissive attachment style tend to be loners, and they can't form relationships because their own needs for that have been neglected and denied early on in life. They don't care to have romantic and social relationships, but it's probably because they're suppressing their feelings and downplaying the importance of relationships. They also prefer not to depend on others or have others depend on them. Their typical response to conflict and stressful situations is to avoid them by distancing themselves, and they're unable or unwilling to share their feelings with others. Now finally, the fourth attachment style is avoidant-fearful. When a caregiver is abusive to a child, the child experiences the physical and emotional cruelty and frightening behavior as being life-threatening. The child's survival instincts are telling her to flee to safety, but safety is the very person who's terrifying her. So in this case, the attachment figure is the source of the child's distress. In these situations, children typically dissociate from themselves. They detach from what's happening to them, and what they're experiencing is blocked from their consciousness. This behavior is actually very common among those who suffer from trauma. As adults, these people continue to be somewhat detached from themselves. They desire relationships and are comfortable in them until they develop emotionally close. Basically, it's like, I want close relationships, but I'm scared of getting hurt. The feelings that were repressed in childhood begin to resurface with no awareness of them being from the past. They're experienced in the present when they become close to someone. They're basically reliving an old trauma. These people's lives are not balanced. They don't have a coherent sense of themselves, usually with a negative self-image, and they feel unworthy. Additionally, they don't have a clear connection with others because of their high anxiety in relationships. Those are the 4 attachment styles. I hope it was helpful for you to figure out which one you identify with. Learning your attachment style can be empowering. It's hard if you're going through life anxious and don't know it. For example, you won't understand the conflicts and frustrations in your relationships. When you learn attachment, you can think, oh, that's my attachment style speaking when you're triggered by something. You can even think, I don't need to respond that way, and change your behaviors. As I said in the beginning of the video, your attachment style can change when you become an adult, and you can have more than one attachment style. A really good book on attachment that I'd recommend to you guys is Attached. It's an amazing read, and there are tests in the book you can take too to find out about your attachment style and how you act in a relationship. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and I hope you have a great day. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and hit subscribe for more videos to come.